The Desperate Call. The crystal spires of Aqua Prime gleamed beneath the light of three suns, their surfaces reflecting the azure waters that covered most of the planet. For 800 years, the Malarian Federation had lived in perfect harmony across 12 water worlds, their civilization built on art, science, and peaceful exploration. Today, that peace lay shattered like broken glass. President Nerida floated in her command chamber, her translucent blue skin rippling with bioluminescent patterns that revealed her deep distress. The webbed fingers of her four hands trembled as she reviewed the latest casualty reports. Around her, dozens of Malarian officials moved through the water-filled corridors of their government complex, their normally graceful swimming reduced to frantic darting as emergency signals flashed throughout the building. The holographic displays showed a nightmare scenario. 3 red markers indicated worlds that no longer existed. Coral Haven, once home to 15 million Milarians, had been stripped bare in a matter of hours. The artistic colony of Pearl Gardens had suffered the same fate 2 days later. Most recently, the research station at Deep Current had gone silent after sending a brief transmission that still haunted everyone who heard it. "They're eating everything," came the panicked voice of Dr. Callow, the station's lead scientist. "The creatures are consuming the very coral we built our cities from. They're taking apart our world piece by piece and loading it onto their ships. There are so many of them. They move like a swarm of locusts, but each one is the size of a transport vessel. We can see them approaching our facility now. If anyone receives this message, do not attempt rescue. Run. Run as far as you can and—" The transmission had ended there. Commander Typhon, head of the Milarian Defense Corps, approached the president with his signature cautious swimming style. His normally bright bioluminescent patterns had dimmed to almost nothing, a clear sign of his exhaustion. "Ma'am, our remaining fleets have been recalled to defend the core systems. We've lost 60% of our ships in the past month. Our weapons simply cannot penetrate the chitin armor of these Dracoth creatures." The Dracoth swarm had appeared at the edge of Milarian space without warning 5 weeks ago. Intelligence reports from other civilizations suggested they had been conquering worlds for over 5 centuries, moving from galaxy to galaxy like a plague of destruction. They were insectoid creatures, standing 4 meters tall, with natural armor plating and the ability to survive in the vacuum of space. Their ships were living organisms that could repair damage by consuming raw materials, and they bred their warriors faster than any civilization could kill them. "How long before they reach Aqua Prime?" President Nerida asked, though she feared the answer. "At their current rate of advance, 2 weeks. Maybe 3 if we can slow them down with hit-and-run tactics," Commander Typhon replied. "But ma'am, we need to face reality. Our people were never meant for war. We've spent 8 centuries developing art and science, not weapons. These creatures live for conquest and destruction. Fighting them conventionally is suicide." The president turned to study the star charts floating in the water around her. The Malarian Federation controlled 12 beautiful water worlds, each one a masterpiece of environmental harmony. Their cities were grown from living coral that filtered the water and provided sustainable housing for billions. Their technology was based on bioluminescent energy systems that worked in perfect balance with their aquatic environment. They had achieved something most civilizations could only dream of: true peace and prosperity without exploitation of their worlds or other species. Now all of that was about to be consumed by creatures who saw planets as nothing more than resources to fuel their endless expansion. "There is one option we haven't considered," said Elder Varus, the oldest member of their species. At nearly 2,000 years old, he had witnessed the founding of 3 of their colonies and remembered the old days when the Milarians first ventured into deep space. The Ancient Array. The Ancient Array was a massive communication system built by their ancestors when they first achieved interstellar travel. It had the capability to broadcast messages across multiple galaxies using quantum entanglement technology that their modern scientists still didn't fully understand. The system had been used for 50 years to search for other peaceful civilizations, but when no one ever responded, it was eventually shut down and forgotten. Elder Varys, we sent signals for half a century and heard nothing but silence, President Nerida said gently. Why would things be different now? Because we were asking the wrong question, the elder replied. We sent messages of greeting and offers of cultural exchange. We were looking for civilizations like ourselves. Now we need something different. We need warriors. The idea sent ripples of unease through the assembled officials. The Mylarians had no concept of professional soldiers or military cultures. Their defense corps was made up of volunteers who learned basic tactics to protect their worlds from pirates and natural disasters. The idea that an entire species might be dedicated to warfare was both fascinating and terrifying to them. Even if such a species exists, why would they help us? Asked Dr. Marina, their chief xenobiologist. What could we possibly offer to creatures who live for battle? Perhaps the question isn't what we can offer them, Elder Varys said slowly. Perhaps it's what the Dracoth have taken from others. Think about it. A swarm that has been conquering for 5 centuries must have made many enemies. Somewhere out there might be a species that has been waiting for a chance to strike back. President Nerida made her decision. She issued orders to reactivate the ancient array and prepare it for maximum power transmission. The system would drain their energy reserves and could potentially be detected by the Dracoth, but they were already facing extinction. Taking one more risk seemed insignificant compared to certain death. 3 days later, the array came online in a deep facility beneath the capital city. The crystalline transmission matrix filled an entire cavern, its surfaces carved with mathematical equations that describe the fundamental nature of space and time. As power flowed into the system, the crystals began to emit a deep harmonic tone that could be felt throughout the city. President Nerida stood before the communication console and composed the most important message in Mylarian history. This is President Nerida of the Mylarian Federation. Our worlds are under attack by the Dracoth swarm. We are a peaceful people with no experience in warfare, and our defenses have failed. 3 of our colonies have been completely destroyed. Millions of our people are dead. We estimate 2 weeks before our capital system falls. We are not asking for trade agreements or cultural exchange. We are begging for military assistance. We will share everything we know about science, art, and technology with any species that has the power to fight these creatures. To anyone receiving this message, if you have ever lost worlds to the Dracoth, if you have ever wanted revenge against them, now is your chance. We can provide detailed intelligence about their fleet positions and tactics. Help us, and perhaps together we can stop them from destroying anyone else. The message was encoded in over 300 different mathematical languages and broadcast toward every sector of space where life might exist. The transmission continued for 6 hours, sending the Plea across distances that most civilizations considered impossible to bridge. For 1 week, nothing happened. Mylarian scouts reported that the Dracoth had finished consuming the outer colonies and were now massing their main fleet. Over 2,000 bioships were gathering at the edge of their territory, a force large enough to strip entire star systems. Other civilizations in nearby sectors began evacuating, unwilling to risk drawing Dracoth attention by offering help. On the 8th day, Lieutenant Coral detected an impossible signal. She had been monitoring the array's receiving systems when a transmission appeared from a sector that their maps indicated was empty space. The signal was weak, but definitely artificial, using mathematical concepts arranged in ways that suggested a very different kind of intelligence. President Nerida, you need to see this immediately, Coral called through the emergency channels. Someone has answered our signal. Within minutes, the command center was filled with Mylarians analyzing the incoming transmission. The aliens had somehow learned their language from the original message and were responding in broken but understandable Mylarian. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet, the message began. We received your distress call and have analyzed your situation. We are humans from the planet Earth, in what you call the local group galaxy cluster. We have dealt with aggressive species before and are authorized to provide military assistance. Our fleet will arrive at your coordinates in 3 standard weeks. Maintain defensive positions and avoid engaging the enemy unless absolutely necessary. Transmit all available intelligence about Dracoth capabilities and fleet positions. Help is coming. The command center fell completely silent as the implications sank in. Someone had not only heard their desperate plea, but was actually coming to fight the most feared empire in known space. The transmission indicated that these humans possessed ships capable of traveling between galaxy clusters and were confident they could handle the Dracoth swarm. "How many ships are they sending?" asked Commander Typhon. "The message doesn't specify numbers," replied Lieutenant Coral, "but they sound very confident about their chances." President Nerida felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. These humans from Earth were traveling across impossible distances to help people they had never met. Whatever kind of species they were, they possessed both advanced technology and the courage to face the Dracoth Empire. Over the following days, the Mylarians began transmitting everything they knew about their enemies. Detailed scans of Dracoth bioships, tactical analyses of their attack patterns, and intelligence about their breeding cycles and resource requirements. In return, the humans sent technical specifications that made the Mylarian scientists gasp in amazement. The human ships used something called quantum slip drives that could fold spacetime and travel at speeds that made Mylarian technology look primitive. Their weapon systems were based on principles the Mylarians had never encountered: controlled nuclear fusion, antimatter containment, and something called kinetic bombardment that could crack planets. Most surprising of all, the humans seemed to view warfare as a science worthy of intense study. They had detailed analyses of hundreds of different combat scenarios and tactical doctrines developed specifically for fighting various types of alien civilizations. When President Nerida asked how they had gained such knowledge, the human response was chilling. The human response. 3 weeks after the first transmission, the Mylarian long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures appearing at the edge of their system. 8 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapon systems that the Mylarian computers couldn't even identify. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Retribution, watching the alien solar system appear on her main display. Her fleet represented the cutting edge of human military technology, ships designed specifically for deep space combat against unknown enemies. The journey from Earth had taken them through 3 different galaxy clusters and past phenomena that most civilizations considered impossible to survive. "Communications. Establish contact with the Mylarian government," Admiral Chen ordered while studying the tactical displays around her command chair. At 45 years old, she had led humanity's first contact with 6 different alien species, 3 of which had been hostile. Her reputation for turning desperate situations into decisive victories had made her the obvious choice to command this mission. Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos looked up from her console where streams of alien text were flowing across multiple screens. "Admiral, I've established communications with President Nerida. Their translation systems are quite sophisticated. They're requesting permission for us to approach their capital world." "Granted. Signal the fleet to maintain combat formation while we proceed to the planet. Commander Rodriguez, prepare your xenobiology team for first contact protocols. I want to know everything about these people before we start planning our operations." Commander David Rodriguez had served as humanity's leading expert on alien psychology for over a decade. His shuttle carried Dr. Lisa Zhang, the Fines, a xenobiologist in the Earth Defense Force, and Colonel Marcus Wright, a tactical analyst who specialized in adapting human warfare to alien environments. As they approached the crystal cities of Aqua Prime, Rodriguez felt the familiar mixture of excitement and caution that came with meeting a new species. The Mylarian capital was unlike anything humans had encountered before. Massive crystal structures grew from the ocean floor like living things, connected by transparent tubes that carried water-filled vehicles between buildings. The entire city seemed to pulse with bioluminescent light that created patterns too complex and beautiful to be artificial. President Narita waited for them at the main docking facility, which had been modified to accommodate air-breathing visitors. She was accompanied by Commander Typhon and several other government officials. The Malarians had never seen humans before and were struck by how compact and solid they appeared compared to their own graceful forms. These humans looked like they had been designed for efficiency and durability rather than beauty. "Welcome to our world," President Narita said through the translation device. "We are grateful beyond measure that you have traveled so far to help us. Please, let us show you what we are facing." Dr. Zhang studied the Milarians carefully as they moved through the crystal corridors. Their movements were fluid and graceful, perfectly adapted for their aquatic environment. Their large eyes showed high intelligence and sensitivity, but also a kind of innocence that suggested they had never experienced real violence. The bioluminescent patterns on their skin seemed to reflect their emotions directly, making deception impossible. In the command center, President Narita activated a holographic display that showed the current tactical situation. Red markers indicated Dracoth positions throughout their territory, while blue dots showed the remaining Milarian colonies. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The Dracoth controlled most of the outer systems and were advancing steadily toward the core worlds. "The Dracoth swarm has been expanding for over 500 years, President Narita explained. They have conquered entire sectors and enslaved or destroyed every species they've encountered. Their bioships can adapt to any weapon we use against them, and their warriors breed faster than we can kill them." Colonel Wright leaned forward to study the tactical information more closely. "Tell me about their command structure. How do they coordinate attacks across multiple systems?" Commander Typhon stepped forward to answer. "They operate like a hive mind. Each swarm has a queen ship that controls all the others through some kind of biological communication network. Destroying individual ships has little effect because the queen simply breeds more warriors to replace them." "Interesting," Wright said while making notes on his tactical pad. "And how do other civilizations typically defend against them?" "Most don't even try," President Narita replied sadly. "The few that have fought them used conventional tactics, fleet engagements, fortified positions, attempts to outrun their expansion. None of it worked. The Dracoth always have more ships and more warriors than their enemies can destroy." Admiral Chen had been listening to the briefing while studying the holographic displays. Now she turned to face the Milarian leaders with a slight smile that made several of them step backward instinctively. "President Narita, I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about human capabilities. We didn't come here to fight the Dracoth the same way everyone else has. We came here to show them what happens when they pick a fight with the wrong species." Over the following hours, the humans shared their tactical analysis with growing excitement. The Dracoth used overwhelming force and direct assault tactics because they had never encountered an enemy that could match their numerical superiority. Their bioships were impressive, but they were also predictable. Their hive mind structure was efficient for coordination, but created critical vulnerabilities if you knew how to exploit them. The problem with every civilization that has fought the Dracoth is that they tried to beat them at their own game, Admiral Chen explained. They built bigger fleets and stronger weapons, thinking they could outmuscle a species that has been perfecting conquest for 5 centuries. That's not how humans approach warfare. Dr. Zhang had been analyzing biological samples from destroyed Dracoth ships, and her findings were remarkable. "Admiral, these creatures are essentially biological machines. They've been engineered for specific purposes, some for construction, others for combat, others for breeding, but they have no individual creativity or adaptation. They can only follow the instructions programmed into their genetic structure." "Which means they can't adapt to truly novel tactics," Colonel Wright added. "They can modify their response to variations of conventional warfare, but something completely outside their experience would leave them helpless." The humans began preparing for battle with an efficiency that amazed the Milarians. Instead of building more ships or weapons, they spent their time studying Dracoth psychology and battle patterns. They identified critical weaknesses in the hive mind command structure and developed tactics specifically designed to exploit the aliens' ability to think creatively. 2 days later, long-range sensors detected the Dracoth main fleet approaching the Mylarian capital system. Over 2,000 bioships moved in perfect formation, their living hulls pulsing with organic energy systems. The fleet was larger than anything the Mylarians had ever seen, stretching across space like a dark cloud that blocked out the stars. "Admiral Chen, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Santos. "It's some kind of ultimatum in broken Mylarian. They're demanding immediate surrender of all Mylarian worlds and populations." "Any response?" asked President Nerida, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with fear. Admiral Chen smiled coldly. "Yes. Rodriguez, transmit this message on all Dracoth frequencies. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You are in violation of territorial boundaries belonging to our allies, the Mylarian Federation. You have 60 seconds to reverse course and leave this system. This is your only warning." The response came back within minutes, filled with clicking and chittering sounds that the translation computers could barely parse. The essence was clear. The Dracoth were amused by the small human fleet and intended to demonstrate what happened to species that interfered with their expansion. "Admiral, they're accelerating toward us," reported the tactical officer. "All ships are deploying combat forms. We're reading massive energy buildups in their bioweapon systems." "Perfect," Admiral Chen said calmly. "All ships, initiate planned thunderstrike. Target the Queen ships first, then focus on disrupting their communication network. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We're trying to break their ability to coordinate as a single organism." The human fleet split into 4 groups and accelerated toward the Dracoth formation at speeds that defied physics. Their quantum slip drives allowed them to appear and disappear across the battlefield faster than the bioships could track. Instead of engaging in traditional fleet combat, the humans used hit-and-run tactics that struck at specific targets before vanishing back into faster-than-light travel. The first attack focused on the 3 Queen ships at the center of the Dracoth formation. Human antimatter torpedoes bypassed the bioship's adaptive armor by creating massive gravitational distortions that crushed the organic hulls from the inside out. Within minutes, all 3 Queens were destroyed, and the remaining Dracoth ships began moving in confused, uncoordinated patterns. The second wave targeted the communication nodes that linked different sections of the fleet. Human kinetic weapons fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, creating impacts that vaporized entire sections of bioships before they could adapt their defenses. Each successful strike left more Dracoth ships isolated and unable to coordinate with their neighbors. The third attack was the masterstroke. Instead of trying to destroy the remaining ships, the humans deployed quantum jammers that disrupted the biological communication networks the Dracoth used to control their weapons and navigation systems. Suddenly, 2,000 bioships found themselves blind and deaf, unable to distinguish friend from foe. In their confusion, the Dracoth fleet began attacking itself. Ships that had been bred to respond aggressively to any unknown signal started firing on their own allies. The formation collapsed into chaos as individual bioships tried to fulfill their programming without any central coordination. Within 6 hours, the most feared fleet in the galaxy had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing in random directions. The humans had achieved a decisive victory without losing a single ship. Admiral Chen established a permanent human embassy on Aqua Prime and began planning the next phase of human expansion into the galactic community. The mission to help the Mylarians had been successful beyond their wildest expectations. Not only had they saved a peaceful civilization from extinction, but they had announced humanity's presence to the galaxy in a way that commanded immediate respect. As President Nerida said in her address to the Galactic Council 6 months later, "We sent out a desperate plea for help and received an answer from the deadliest species the galaxy has ever known. But we also learned that sometimes the most dangerous predators, are also the most loyal protectors. Humanity has shown us that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction is necessary to preserve what is good in the universe. The galaxy had a new apex predator, and for the first time in centuries, the civilized worlds could sleep peacefully, knowing that somewhere among the stars, humans were watching.